All right, we told you earlier that Nigeria's House of Representatives is proposing a single term of 6 years for the office of the president and governors in a bill just introduced by 35 members of the Green Chambers. And we had joining us much earlier, we hope we can now talk to Dr. Sam Amadi, who joins us virtually. He is the director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Glad to rejoin you, Dr. Sam Amadi.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
All right. So what do you make of this bill being proposed by 35 members of the House of Representatives? It contains a number of proposals that are practicable and, of course, of public interest. Let's begin with the 6-year single term for the office of the president and that of the governors.
Okay. So I said we saw this before. Abuja Constitution talks about a single-term presidency, the notion that will help to share power across all the regions and with multiple vice presidency. And I thought, from a political theory, or political scientist perspective, that was innovative and aligns with concern about what we call constitutionalist democracy, where different groups look for pluralism, look for fair sharing, consensus building, and create more confidence and trust in the political system. Again, under President Obasanjo, there was the constitutional reform where I think Bishop Kuka now was the secretary, and efforts were made also to smuggle quote unquote Attorney General, then some of them, Derek and a few other people, were alleged to have wanted to put in a constitution that allows for single term. Under Jonathan, it keeps the current. So I think there's some rationale behind it that if we have a single term, it could help to certify our democracy. Incumbents know that they're not going to run a second term, and so they will have no incentive to manipulate electoral process. And again, with 6 years term, maybe we are focusing on the power going around. And if you couple it with a zoning formula, much attraction, and multiple presidencies, then you might stabilize the quest for power sharing, the struggle for political power maybe less. Now, the idea here is, with this kind of rotational one-term, single-term system, it will be enough. People calculate it will be enough for an incumbent to do something for 6 years and then hand over. I think that's good, but the question is, will it necessarily solve the crisis of political manipulation? Will it strengthen democracy and development? And that's a tokenism. That's a notion that Nigerian problem is looking for innovative institutions. So we are always trying something new and never seriously, rigorously, and painstakingly crossing all the T's and the I's and delivering on those potentials. So we keep on failing and rushing. And so some people argue that probably we should make it slowly. We should debate this more. We should ramify this more. We should also look for complementary institutional design that will help strengthen this. So, for example, why are we not, strengthening local government? Why are we not decentralizing? So, even if you have a presidency that's 6 years one time, probably you should also match it with a new federalism, perhaps state and federal government, and the federal government, the states having more powers to manage themselves. So I think it's not one silver bullet, not one bullet kill. Yes, it might be a good idea. Another question is, the electoral process has to change significantly. The electoral constitutional amendment is going on. Can we get consensus? Because this will require perhaps changing, going to the states for them to sign up approval. Are we going to get the required constitutional endorsement to amend that constitution? So I think this is probably something that makes sense, that requires more public hearing, that requires more rigorous discussion, that requires even scholarly research to say, okay, we've come close to this in the past. What were the failures? Now look at countries that have practiced it. What processes do they put in place to ensure that they can optimize the value? I see value in a single term, that it removes the tendency of incumbents to rig election. If you look at most of the incumbents, apart from Jonathan that lost out and that conducted a free and fair election, And the
Dr.
second
Amadi.
time, there's more desperation. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think the legislators would get support considering our experience of the national confab?
Well, two things will happen. I mean, if the presidency is signing on to this, assuming some people in the presidency thinks it will work, then they have enough incentive, carrot and stick to probably, drive enough states, or perhaps the APC states with a few co-options to get the numbers at the state level. Then state assemblies are in the control of the state government, as we know today. And it depends on whether the drivers of this policy can create a consensus. Looking at the optics, people out there, they do not constitute to me a significant power block. I mean, individually, maybe credible, maybe smart guys, but they are not. If you look at the Senate, House of Reps, the power brokers are not on top of the agenda. So we want to see where the speaker, where is the majority leader, where is the majority leader in the Senate. There are people who constitute influence. I mean, in every legislative house, there are individuals who, by virtue of their own clout, by virtue of their constituency they come from, or many years they have stayed there, and they are ranking in the political ruling parties and majority parties, have the governing power. So far, this looks like a strategy, a proposal, some well-meaning, articulate parliamentarians who have not yet seen the gravitas that suggests that in this, before 2027, you could put this through. But this is like a proposal on the table, and the way politics works, you could see them be able to put together many diverse political interests. And if it's a win-win, I mean, if the guys who are going to run for presidency consider this as good for them, so that in 6 years, Mr. A count is off, not kicks in. So that creates abridges the time for some people with political interest to look at when they can become president or when they can potentially run viably. So you might see some national consensus around it. But for now, it's still and hazy, and one cannot say.
All right, Dr. Sam Amadi, we know you have the capacity to go on and on this issue, but we just have to go now. Dr. Sam Amadi, Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Thank you for your intervention on the News Hour tonight.
Thank you very much.